morning, friend.
How are you today?
Well, as y'all can see, I didn't wash my hair today, so we're messy bunning it. But I got clothes on, so we're doing good.
Still look cute. Oh, I was telling Diana, like, as I literally ran into the room to set everything up for this morning, like, I'm driving the Hot Mess Express.
Mm-hmm.
I've convinced myself that I only needed 30 minutes to, like, shower, do my hair, do my makeup, get my water, get everything turned on and set up.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lie that I've told myself.
I told myself the same lie this morning. That's why we have the hair like this. I thought I only needed, like, oh yeah, you'll hit the snooze one time,
Mhm.
and you'll get up and you'll go take a shower and be able to get your desk ready and all that kind of jazz, which I sort of did. I sort of got it ready. But no, that's, the sacrifice was the hair. So
I feel that. I feel that. Well, today
mm-hmm.
we're talking about motherhood self-care.
Yep.
And self-care has been kind of like a buzzword lately.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things get thrown around
Yes.
as hashtag self-care.
Yes.
But like, is it
Mm-hmm.
really here? So today I wanted to talk about what we as moms can do for self-care and what is toxic self-care.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's discuss things that do not count
Right.
as self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are some things that just do not count.
Mm-hmm.
If it is a requirement for
Mm-hmm.
your physical well-being,
Mm-hmm.
it does not count.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't call it self-care if it's something that you just need to be a human.
Yeah. Being able to take a shower
Mm-hmm.
is not self-care. Now you can do like the fancy baths or showers and have your um steamers, or what are those things? Your
Bath
kids really
bombs?
enjoy them.
Bath
Yes.
bombs. My kids love bath bombs.
Um you can do that and make it a little bit more special, but if you are just hopping in the shower while someone else is watching your child, that does not count as self-care, ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Especially when the child ends up coming into the bathroom and asking you for things
yes.
while you're trying to get clean and not
Yes.
stinky.
Um my little has figured out that if he rams the door hard enough with his shoulder, the bathroom door will pop open.
Wow.
And sometimes there is this pool, like there's this whole water table in his house that he didn't realize he had.
Uh-huh. And mom's keeping it from me for some
Yeah.
reason. Why would she do that?
That is usually followed by my husband like running, screaming, "Hey, leave your mother alone." Eating proper meals is
Yep.
not self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Exercising is not self-care.
Yep.
These are not self-care because you need to shower, you need to eat, you need to move your body.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are going to properly care for your family,
Mm-hmm.
you need to do all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So, Diana, what are some things that you would not consider self-care?
Um, Sleep. I think in and rest. I think I put those kind of together. In our culture, we have decided that we have to earn sleep and rest. And when I get all the things done, then I can sleep. Um, and that's not the case. Like I know moms who are burning the candle at both ends, and um, they say, "Oh, well, on the weekend I'll get some self care by sleeping the correct amount." And that's not self-care, guys. That's a way to get burnout in every area of your life. So it's a requirement. We need good sleep and rest, and we need to take it way more seriously because it can impact your health in huge ways. Um, I think, like, this one's kind of debatable, I guess, for some people, but depending on your job and things like that. But getting dressed appropriately so you feel good for your day, like, even if you're going to be home all day, it completely, like, I'm guilty of this. Like, I'll just go around in my sweatpants all day and not get dressed. But that's not what I do for my kids. Like, I don't let my kids just run around in their pajamas all day. I'm like, go take time and get dressed. Get dressed appropriately for what we're doing today. Are we going to go play outside? Be sure you're ready to be playing outside. Are we going to go to church? Are we going to go to town? Be sure you're ready for those things. Um, so, especially for stay-at-home moms, I don't think we take that seriously enough. Like, that is a thing that you need to do to take care of yourself, is to get dressed in your day. And then another one that just, like, kind of makes me sick is when someone talks about, "Oh, I'm gonna go take my medication," and they call that self-care. I'm like, "That's not what you would call it for your child. What let's
Mm.
call it what it would be for ourselves if, like, what would we call that for a child? That's necessary. That's not a bonus. Taking your medication is not a bonus. And for some people, seeing a therapist is not a bonus. Like,
Mhm.
that's a needed thing. That's a necessary thing. So those are things that if it's necessary for your life, it doesn't count as self-care.
Yes.
So,
Yes, absolutely. I like the if you wouldn't consider this self-care for your child, don't consider it self-care for yourself. I wouldn't think about that with my husband either, like him taking his medication, getting
mhm,
dressed every day. Like
mhm,
I wouldn't consider that self-care for him.
mhm.
But I've absolutely considered taking magnesium supplements and vitamin D.
Right, right, right. And in a way, I kind of understand people putting it in that classification because nobody else is going to do that for you. You're not a child. So nobody else is going to take care of you in these ways. But when they're necessary for life and the way that we've come to understand self care, these aren't extra things. These are necessary things.
Yeah.
I think that that might be helpful, like to have a definition. What are we calling self care?
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
how do you define self care? Because as we're going to dive into, there's some things that are defined as self care that can actually become toxic. And there's some things that are considered self care that are just necessary.
Mhm.
So, kind of putting you on the spot. I don't think we had it in the notes for a definition, but like, how do you define self care, Amanda?
Um, well, if I'm thinking about how I define self-care, it would be something that you do to feed yourself,
Mm-hmm.
not physically as much as spiritually and emotionally and
Mm-hmm.
mentally, I guess, too, which I guess those kind of go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
But because I record on my computer, I do have an official definition of self care.
Score, what's that?
Self care has been defined as the process of establishing behaviors to ensure holistic well being of oneself, to promote health, and actively manage illness when it occurs. I don't like that part.
Mm-mm.
Individuals engage in some form of self care daily with food choices, exercise, sleep, reading, and dental care. And, like, I guess if they're thinking self care, you're just taking care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
I could see some of that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not necessarily like what we're talking about. We're talking about like
And that's not
feeding
how
yourself.
society uses it either right now. I don't think
Yeah.
that's like a pop culture definition. Then the way I think of self care is kind of like what you were saying, Amanda. It's not the necessities, like, it's not the things to stay barely alive.
Hmm.
It's the things that make you feel like a whole person. It's
Yeah.
the things that refresh your soul, give your mind a break for a little while so that you can come back to what you're doing energized. Um, like, yeah. I guess that's kind of how I define self-care is the things that give your soul a break and give you a chance to come back and feel like a whole person.
Mhm. I like that. So I guess now moving on to things that are self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And here is my list of favorites.
Mm-hmm.
One is church.
Mm.
Church is very important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my mom is a pastor, and so I really want to go to church with my family. It is so important to me that I'm willing to drive almost 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
if I'm not staying with my mom already,
Mm-hmm.
in order
I
to go
love
to
it.
church. um, so church is very important. Feed your soul, have someone else pour into you. We had a minister years ago that used the example in one of his sermons of a water pitcher,
Mm-hmm.
and you have a big water pitcher and then a cup and then like a kid-sized cup.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, okay, so you go to church, occasionally you get this much water in your cup. And he sits that down and then he takes his cup and he's like, but then your kids start asking questions about their faith and you have to pour a little bit into theirs. Well, then you need to live your faith in front of your children. So now you're pouring a little bit more and eventually your cup's going to run out.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, and then with other people needing you and
Mm-hmm.
relying on you, you've
Mm-hmm.
got to make sure that your cup stays full. So
Mm-hmm.
do something to fill your cup.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Something else that's been really important to me it's almost been a decade. I started doing meditations
Mm-hmm.
around the time that Shane and I got together. And that has been 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, there are days that it feels like, oh, it's only been 7 years. And then there are days where it's only been 7 years. I have dealt with this man for at least 20 years. um,
Think that's all
but
marriages, isn't it? I mean, y'all don't tell us if we're wrong, because that'll just be discouraging.
but I really enjoy meditations and I don't do them the way that I used to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Before, especially when I was first starting, I would practice with guided meditations.
Mm-hmm.
And it started when I was a social worker, actively working. And I had just started a program called the ACT team,
Mm-hmm.
which was high intensity case management for people who had lived for years and years in, what do they call them? Guest treatment centers. And so people that had spent long term, like years, in our local psychiatric center, people,
So what I would probably call an inpatient unit.
yes. I had worked at a place called Caney Creek, and that's what that was. It was inpatient. It was kind of like a
But longer
nursing
term,
home.
I think the
Yeah.
inpatient I'm familiar with is usually at least intended to be short term.
Yeah. Caney was amazing and I loved it. And honestly, if I could have worked there for the rest of my life, I would have worked there for the rest of my life. It was like a nursing home for people with mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And we had all walks of life, all ages, and it was so much fun to just go and just hang out with everybody. But when I started doing the high intensity, by lunchtime,
Mm-hmm.
I was done.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know if I could see one more person in my day.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started taking a lunch, which is not self care. I needed to eat, and
Yes.
I was not getting paid for lunch. But I would very typically eat while I had a client that was in the store or eat
Mm-hmm.
in between clients. So I started going to the one restaurant in town, which was Dairy Queen, the only one Heinemann had, and I would get something different off the menu, like most days. At
Mhm.
least I would try to. And then I would go and drive to a park that was just down the road and sit there and turn on a guided meditation. And I would do like a 5 or 10 minute meditation.
Mhm.
And then I started having problems sleeping, planning a wedding because
Mhm.
my mind wanted to do all of the planning then.
Mhm.
And so I was like, well, no, if this helps me so much during my day, let me try it at night.
Mhm.
And luckily, I was able to find it's a YouTube channel called The Honest Guys,
Mhm.
and I love them. And there was like one of the first couple videos that I listened to. They said a misconception about meditation is that you don't ever think of anything else.
Right. 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 Yeah.
And
I
he
think
said,
that's a
but
huge misconception.
yeah, and he said, but that's not reality. That is not how our brains and our bodies work. You
Mhm.
are going to have other thoughts.
Mhm.
Allow yourself to have that thought and then put it away and breathe and come back. And practicing that for about 5 years with the guided meditations, at least a few times a week,
Mhm.
really, really helped. And then it was like overnight, they stopped helping me.
Mm.
And I think it was because I kind of found a few that I liked
Mhm.
and just would get too caught up in that. So I've had to start doing my own.
Mhm.
There was a former monk that I
Mhm.
used to work with,
Yes.
and it was so great. I'm so glad I got to work with him. And he was a therapist, but he specialized in meditations, and he had a meditation for everything.
Mhm.
And so I went to him one day and it was like, I'm getting more and more forgetful by the day.
Mhm.
And I don't know why.
Mhm.
I said, I feel like, the big stressors in my life should be done. I've had my wedding. I don't have to worry about that anymore. I have moved into a new home. I don't have to worry about like the moving process or what is this going to look like or how is this going to work.
Right.
I feel like I should be getting better.
Mhm.
And he said to do a body scan.
Mhm.
And it has become one of my favorite meditations to do just from time to time. Close your eyes and take 5 deep breaths. And then picture a bell in front of you and a body of moving water. And count to 10. And with every number, you hear the bell and it gets closer to you. And it could be like a little handbell, it could be the Liberty Bell. It's whatever bell you want it to be.
Mhm.
And as you count to 10, it gets closer and closer to you. And then once you get to 10, walk up to the stream of water and start scanning your body. Are you having a lot of headaches lately? What are you holding on to in your head?
Mhm.
Is it the example that he gave me was, is it your mother in law's criticism? Take it out, put it in the water, watch it float away. It's gone. It's done. You don't have to worry about that anymore. You just got rid of it. Go on down. Are your shoulders tense? Visualize yourself pulling whatever that is that you feel like you're carrying on your shoulders
Mhm.
out. Throw it in the water, watch it go away. Scan all the way down that way, scan back up that way, see if there's anything you've missed. Once you feel like you've officially gotten rid of all of the tension in your body, count to 10 again, listen to the bell chime, but this time it's getting farther and farther away. And take 5 more deep breaths and open your eyes.
Mhm.
And that has been so helpful And then to sleep, I usually do, I call it the perfect day. And I will visualize every single moment of what I would consider to be just the perfect typical day
Mhm.
with the family that I have and the house that I have and the things that I have with the schedule I have.
Mhm.
So, what will make tomorrow be the perfect day?
Mhm.
And it really helps me to be grateful for the things that I have and not really continually looking for new things,
Mhm.
or life would be better if I was married to this person, or life would be
Right.
better if I had this house.
Right.
I could talk all day long about meditation, but I will move on. Another thing that I do is once a week, I will schedule myself some solo time
Mhm.
and I will do a movie or a television night usually.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, this is usually on Mondays, but that may change because up until this point, for the last 3 or 4 years now,
Mhm.
Shane has been teaching at a local college on Monday evenings.
Mhm.
And it's been great for us, other than the fact that he is gone almost the entire Monday. So
Right.
he would leave the house at 7:30 and not get back sometimes until 9 o'clock.
Mhm.
And this one lock of hair is driving me crazy, and it's all I can look at. Okay. um, but he when he would get home on Mondays, I was done
Mhm.
with my child.
Mhm.
We had had too much together time,
Mhm.
and he needed to be with his dad.
Mhm.
And so I would, around 8 o'clock, go ahead and say my goodnights to everybody. I would get my snack and my drink and whatever else I wanted that night and head into the bedroom and lock the door.
Just
And
you guys, you're on your own. You've
yeah,
got this.
sometimes I would hear a knock at the door. Mama, Mama night. And I would let him come in. Like he did that last night too. I had went to get ready uh for filming today, and I told everybody good night, and he just kept like standing in the hallway and looking towards the door.
Mhm.
He would say, "Night, Mama." And Shane said, "Do you want to go give Mama a hug before bed?" And I heard feet running towards the door.
Yes, of course I do.
But just take some time.
Mhm.
And it doesn't have to be for you a movie night or a television night. That's just something I enjoy.
Mhm.
Something else is video games.
Mhm.
And I'm almost finished with Glow Kids. And so that feels weird to say now.
So I have to look it up again. A friend of mine, she was talking about Glow Kids, and that book is apparently very intense. I haven't gotten into that one yet. But she said you really need to balance it with another book. I'll find it and I'll let you know. And I'll post it on our Instagram too. But she said, Glow Kids is great. It's got lots of great facts,
Mhm.
but it's also in our world not always realistic. And that's a
Yes.
little bit extreme
Yes.
feeling. And so she said he's got legitimate stuff, but he's going to make you feel like you're doing everything wrong forever.
Yeah.
Um, but she said there's another book to balance it with that she thinks has a more balanced approach to media. That's so I want to get that one too. And I don't
Yeah.
remember what it is right now. It has something to do with like family habits or something like that.
I have been taking his information and making my own family decisions with it since I've been
Yeah.
reading. And if you guys don't know, Glow Kids is a fantastic book by
Mhm.
Dr. Nick Kadaris, I think is how you pronounce his last
Mhm.
name.
I think so.
And he is a psychologist who mostly worked with teens and addiction.
Mhm.
Like, not necessarily like teens with addiction, but teens was his day job as a school counselor, and addiction, which was what he did his doctoral thesis on, and he taught an addiction class, I think at Harvard.
Mhm.
And he started seeing somewhere in the mid 2000s, early 2000s, mid 2000s, somewhere through there, that these kids were coming in a state of psychosis
Mhm.
from playing games like
Mhm.
Call of Duty and Minecraft.
Mhm.
And how there were all of these kids that he had seen, like younger and younger kids, that were going into a catatonic state from playing games like Minecraft,
Mhm.
because it also has the Tetris effect.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you guys have, I wasn't familiar with it, but I've absolutely experienced it, where you've played like a game like Tetris for so long, or Candy Crush, it would be more, I guess, timely at this point. But you've played for so long that and not really focused on something else, you'll see patterns in your
Mhm.
head from the game, like blocks falling down,
Mhm.
or you'll see patterns from Candy Crush and you want to swap.
Mhm.
And that's called the Tetris effect, because it has actually been changing like your gray matter
Mhm.
in your brain.
Which is disturbing.
Yeah. But he talks a lot about like the effects of video games and television and just media in general.
Mhm.
But I don't play video games very often.
Right.
Maybe once or twice a week I
Mhm.
will play, and my game of choice is Harvest Moon Light of Hope.
I love Harvest Moon.
I've played other Harvest Moons and I just don't like it as much.
I haven't played Light of Hope, but I used to play Tree of Life, I
Mhm.
think, and I loved it.
Like, I have multiple games running, but mine, like, I have one on my Switch, but
Mhm.
I feel like I may as well delete it
Mhm.
because I messed it up. Like, I didn't plan ahead. All I wanted was money. I wanted all of the money, and my
Mhm.
personal goal in the game was to have over $1 million.
Mhm.
And so I would get all this.
Strawberries, man. Every Game moon, it's strawberries. Grow all the strawberries.
I was so focused on the like just getting money for things
Mhm.
that I sold everything that I would ever have. Like every year, I may keep like 3 or 4 of everything that I've harvested and sell everything else. And I wouldn't keep any gems,
Mhm.
like nothing that I have mined. I'm selling it all because that's where the money is. All of the fish that I caught. And then
Mhm.
later it's like, oh, you're going to give me a lot of money and these really cool stuff if I sell you this or give you this thing.
Mhm.
Probably should have held on to that.
Uh-huh. Yep.
And so I started using Shane's Switch one day and I wanted to play that game there. And I was like, I'll just start a new game. It's fine. Like mine, something
Uh-huh.
happened to mine. I'll just start a new
Uh-huh.
game. And I was like, I'm also going to do all of the things that I should have done.
Mhm.
And I'm so meticulous. I've been playing on his for about 6 months. I am still in spring of year 2 because I have a schedule.
Mhm.
It takes me about 2 hours to play a week.
Mhm.
And so I don't typically have 2 extra hours in a week to play.
Mhm.
But that's something that I really enjoy that's just like kind of, it's not really mindless because I have to put so much thought into it,
Right.
but it's very like, oh, look, I planted this and it lived and here it is.
It
Um,
feels oddly satisfying.
yeah.
Yep.
And then I guess like my last one because I feel like I've been talking forever, is books.
Mhm.
I really enjoy audiobooks.
Yes.
And I love being able to listen when I drive. And we are,
Sorry, guys. Oh my goodness. I'm still sleep deprived. I went to a homeschool conference this last weekend, and I went with another friend, and we literally did not go to sleep before 1 o'clock in the morning every night. And that's not me. It's not my norm. So I'm just like still catching up, even though that was a while ago. So sorry, I keep yawning. You were talking about audiobooks.
yes. We are always on the road. We are always doing
Mhm,
something. Like my little has swim class in Lexington, which is about an hour and a half away. And so on Wednesdays, we drive for 3 hours to get to a 30-minute class.
mhm,
Um, but we're always traveling, we're always on the road. So it's so nice to be able to listen to books because I'm a very slow reader.
mhm.
And if you are the type of person who can sit down and read a book that you hold in your hand, that is amazing. I love that for you. However, don't think you're better than us.
I've heard that a lot of people like, oh, well, it's not actually reading
Mhm.
if you use an audiobook. And I'm like, excuse me, what about a blind person? Is Braille not reading because they're not using their eyes? What if someone has a sensory processing disorder? What if someone's dyslexic? How can you say that's not really reading?
There was someone that I was talking
Made
to
me
a
really
couple
mad.
of
It's
weeks
like a
ago.
major soapbox. It's a
Yeah,
major soapbox. That counts. The idea of storytelling has started as oral, folks.
yes. There was someone I was talking to a couple of weeks ago, and I don't think they realized how much I listen to audiobooks.
Mhm.
And I think there was a commercial for a Kindle or something came on TV, and she was like, "Oh, no, I could never. It's just so nice to actually read." And I was like, "What do you mean by that?" And she was like, "Well, being able to hold a book and turn the page, I wouldn't be able to enjoy it any other way." And I was
I
like,
used to think that way.
I did too,
I used
until
to
I
think that
realized,
way.
like, oh, I can read one book over the course of 2 months,
Mhm.
or I can listen to 4 to 5 books a month.
Mhm.
And that's pretty much what
And
I taught. I was like,
it's not always the same experience. Like it is nice to sit and hold a book and read a physical book, but I don't get to do that very often.
yeah,
Like that's not my life right now. And someday that'll be my life again, but that's not my life right now. And I don't want to miss out on the experience of listening to the stories and having new information just because I can't sit down and hold a book for that amount of time right now.
yeah,
Like, give me audiobook and dishes all day long.
yeah. Um, I finally asked her, like, how many books have you read this month and what were they?
Mhm.
And she was like, oh, well, I've read these 2 fiction books. I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, for real, like, that is
Yeah.
amazing for you.
Mhm.
Um, I have read a business book,
Mhm.
a fiction book that it was really great,
Mhm.
and a self-care book.
Mhm.
And I am about to read another fiction because I can do Audible and not feel bad about it.
Right.
Um, I can listen with one earbud in while I'm trying to get him down for a nap.
Mhm.
I can listen while I'm driving. I can listen while Shane is watching television,
Mhm.
while I'm cleaning house. Like, it's so great. But also, like, just being able to read in general is wonderful and you should do it.
Yes.
Find something you're interested in. Everyone has something.
Yes.
Like, there is a book for everyone. And people
Yes.
who think, like, I hate reading,
Yes.
try Audible, try
Yes.
audiobooks.
if you can't afford Audible, your library has a app where you can go borrow audiobooks. I promise you it does. Just because you haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't have it. In Indiana, it's called Libby. There's also an app called Hoopla, and on Hoopla, you can get audiobooks, regular books, and movies and music. Like you can get all of them on Hoopla. So check your library if it has something like that. If you don't have a library card, we can't be friends. Go get a library card. Like figure this out because you're missing out. Like there's like at least half of the books, if not more, that I listen to are from the library through Libby or through Hoopla. Because why would I pay for it or use my Audible credits if I can get it for free? And that's what they're there for. That's what your library is there for, to provide you those things.
Mhm.
So if you're thinking, I don't want to get it from the library because all they have is CDs, that's not true anymore. Um, they have great resources. And also, if your library doesn't have the book you want, or Libby doesn't have the book you want, or whatever, ask your librarian. My librarian loves it when I ask her for books because she's like, nobody asks me for things. So I'm just guessing when I purchase stuff for the library because she has to buy, like, I don't know, like two or three audiobooks a month. And she's like, I'm just guessing at what would be good for my patrons. But if you tell me, then I can get something that I know someone wants.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Audible, love Audible. But if you can't for some reason afford Audible, which I get, um, take advantage of the library.
Mhm.
You can get audiobooks there, all the
Yes.
things. I just ordered an audiobook about gardening because that's who I am. And I also have the one for our book club on Audible. And I also have a cozy mystery on Libby all at the same time because that's what Diana does. Oh, and I'm still listening to
Yes.
Simplicity Parenting. Still.
See, I can't do more than one book, and that's a problem because it has really put me behind for our book club. If you are an OG listener and you know that how our schedule goes, you know this was supposed to be a book club episode. However, I was really into um Glow Kids, and I was like, I'll finish this
Yeah.
and then I'll
Mhm.
download All Things Great and Small, or All Creatures Great and Small.
All Things Great.
And
I
oh,
think that's what it
okay.
is. I can't remember now. I
Well,
don't know.
it's that book.
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, like I only have an hour or so left in this and I'm listening to it at a higher speed so I can finish it faster. I'll go ahead and download this other book that I know
All
that I'm gonna
creatures
need to
great and
read."
small. You were right. I'm
Yeah.
thinking about it now.
I was like, "I'll go ahead and download All Creatures Great and Small and have that for when I finish this book on my drive." And I downloaded it, and when I tell you I stopped breathing. I don't know how many minutes it was because all I saw was 15 hours, and I was like,
Sorry.
"It is Friday. I need to have this book finished by
Oh,
Monday."
not
And then I
happening.
was like, "It's okay. It's gonna be fine because I'll put it at a higher speed, and I'll finish this one on the drive today, and then on Sunday, I'll be able to start All Creatures Great and Small, and I'll listen to it all day Sunday, Monday, and we'll be great."
Hmm.
And then I get a phone call on Friday and it takes most of the drive. And then I get a phone call on Sunday and it takes a good half of the drive. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no.
Yeah. Honestly, I've read it before, so I wasn't too worried about finishing it if we needed to have our conversation before I was finished. But I was like, oh, I'll listen to it when I drive to the convention this weekend. Me and my friend, we talked the entire 4.5 hours,
Mhm.
which is wonderful. And I'm glad we did that, but I did not listen to my audiobook at all.
Yeah.
Same for on the way home. We talked the whole time on the way home. So I'm not nearly as far as in it as I was going to be either.
I don't know who this friend is,
Hmm.
but you talked to her for 4 hours on the way there, 4 hours on the way back,
Hmm.
and you stayed up until 1 a.m. every night that you were at the convention talking to her. I don't think you can be friends anymore.
Hey, I invited you.
Yeah, but you're still not allowed to have any other friends. We need to do a TikTok. It's super
I
old at
think
this
that's
point.
called toxic.
There was a TikTok trend, I think it was last summer, and it was like there's a song, Your Best Friend, My Best Friend, or something, I don't remember. But it was about like your best friend having another friend. It's like,
Mhm,
no,
mhm.
no, I'm the only friend.
Yeah, I'm the only one
I
you're
get
allowed to
all
have.
of them. I will kill that person. But anyway, so that's all of mine.
Mhm.
And again, I feel like I talked forever. I'm so sorry. I was like, I'll only put like a couple things on this list. It'll be fine. I'll be done in 10 minutes. Sorry. I get very passionate about these
We all
things.
know that's not gonna happen, Amanda. We all know it's not gonna be just 10 minutes.
I talk a lot. That's why I
Um,
have a podcast.
we have a lot of words. We have a lot of words. Um, so for me, I have a few, and my husband just opened the door. Ooh, I'm getting a tea delivery. Fresh tea. Um, so my first one is journaling. Um, something that I'm still learning. Thank you, baby. Look at that. That's service. Oh, it's hot. Um, so journaling is something that I am new to. I mean, like everybody knows journaling. We've been journaling since like high school, right? We all had our little secret diaries and things like that. But I always felt like I stunk at those. Like I did not write in it every day. I didn't like write my whole day. Like I didn't really like it. I didn't like journaling. Um, but when I went to therapy last year, one of the big things that my therapist recommended was two kinds of journaling. One is like having a thankful journal. And I think if you find some way to get gratitude in your day every day, like it's so life-giving for your soul. Um, and with Amanda, she talks about, her meditations, and that's her, figuring out like where's this thankful stuff? What am I thankful for, and getting that gratitude in. And for me, it's journaling. Like I force myself, I have to write at least 5 things that I feel deeply grateful for that day. And if I can, I try to make it a different 5 things than what it was the day before. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes we have a really hard day, and the thing I'm thankful for 5 days in a row is jasmine green tea because I love jasmine green tea and I'm always thankful for it. um, but just taking the time out to look at your life, excuse me, taking the time out to look at your life and acknowledge, holy cow, I've got it good. Like, like Amanda said, I don't want to think about this thing over here that I don't have yet and that I look forward to having someday. Like that's not where I need my focus to be. I don't need my focus to be on, oh, I should have done this. I want to have this. I want to go to this place over here. I want to refocus on, no, this is the stuff I'm already getting to do. These are the things that I've already got my life full of. Um, so that's part of my journaling. The other part of my journaling, I guess I have three. I have a lot of journals. If y'all see that little stack right there, like it's me. So I thankful journal. I have an affirmation journal, and this is something I would have laughed at probably 10 years ago. I was like, who needs to have an affirmation journal? Like, what is this? Um, but we have to combat that narrative that's going on in our brains. I have to combat the narrative that's going on in my brain because we talked about the Enneagram as a type 1. I have the meanest inner self critic that you've ever met in your life. And it's talking to me continually. Um, and if I just let it run roughshod over me, I'm like dead inside, guys. Like it is brutal. And so part of why I do the affirmation journal is to combat that inner critic, to talk about the good things that are true. Like, no, I am a good mom. Like, I hug and love all my kids and tell them that I love them every single day. I'm a child of God. I have intrinsic value because I am made in the image of God. Like, I carry divine image in my being. Like, that's valuable.
Mhm.
And sometimes I have to tell myself those things over and over so that I actually believe them because I know them up here. But if you don't live them and truly believe that they're real, it's going to affect what you think about yourself and how you live your life and how you value yourself and how you take care of yourself. Um, Thankful journal, affirmation journal, scripture writing journal. When I can't get myself into like a structured Bible study, whether it's at church or on my own, I will fall back on just journaling scripture. Um, and it sounds so simplistic, and I tend to be very self critical like, oh, come on, Diana, you can't do an actual Bible study. Um, but it's so effective. And honestly, guys, with Bible work and doing any kind of spiritual work, the biggest, most important part is showing up.
Mhm.
If I commit to showing up, I get just as much value out of working on writing a book of the Bible as I do following a study written by someone like Ruth Chu Simons. Like that, what was the book we did last year?
And striving cease.
Right. She has a Bible study. It's fabulous. I've done it and I get value out of it. But I get just as much value out of writing scripture when I just show up. Like I bring myself and I show up and I see the value in my life in it because it's doing the same thing in a way that doing the affirmation journaling is because it's reminding you this is what's true, this is what's real, and getting that in your head. Um, Saying a lot this morning. Sorry, y'all. So, journaling is a thing that I'm working on and doing. Um, I also will do some prayer journaling because for some reason, I do a lot better writing things down. It feels more organized in my brain. And also, a cool thing is if you make a little list of like, hey, these are some major prayer requests, you get to go back and check them off sometimes.
I was gonna ask if you went back.
Not always, and there's only like specific things that I've done that with, where I've gone through and I've literally made, okay, God, I'm praying for this, and I'm putting a little box by it so I can come back later and check it off. Um, and that's really cool when you get to go back and check those things off. So I can't decide if this one is self care or if this needs to be on our necessary list. So you can help me with this, Amanda. Um, but being outside for me,
Necessary.
that's what I think. I kind of think this is necessary.
You have to do it, guys.
You
Like,
gotta
I
be
guess it is
outside.
self-care, but it is a necessary self-care.
It changes my whole day.
Mhm.
It changes my whole day. If I know like there's days where I don't get outside. Like there's days where I'm inside my house for literally the whole day. Not a lot of them, but they're there. Or I've driven to this place and I've driven to this place and I've not actually gotten time to be present outside. And I am crabby on those days. I am like, I don't want to say full on depressed, but I am very in myself and down on those days when I can't get outside. I think kind of like some bonus things that I don't get every day, but I think kind of count as self-care when I'm like feeling like the shoulders are up by my ears and I'm really tense is getting outside and grounding with my bare feet.
Yes.
I know that sounds weird, y'all, but please try it. I remember one time when I think it was Tori was really little. And so I have three kids and they are all tiny. I have three kids, four and under. And Tori was still nursing and she was starting to teeth and Evie was breaking molars and I don't know what was happening with Eb. I'm sure something was happening with Eb. And I swear to y'all, I hadn't seen the sun for probably 4 days, like, genuinely been in the sun for 4 days, and everything was bad.
Did you
And
put his picture away?
No.
Do you get that reference?
No.
The song "Picture" by Sheryl Crow, and Kid Rock is the number one name billed, but Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow,
Uh-huh.
that's a line in the song.
Okay.
I ain't seen the sunshine in 3 darn days.
What it
I
felt
put his
like.
I put her picture away, sat down and cried today.
I remember now. I get the reference now. So, I remember, like, I was like, "What do I do? I can't go get a massage. I can't leave my kids alone. I need a break, but there's no way for me to get a break." Um, and it was, like, February, so it's nasty outside. Like, it's cold and dreary and wet, but I could see sunshine out the window, and so I got a fuzzy blanket, and I made myself some tea, and I made sure the kids were safe, and they were all laying down for their nap or whatever, and I had the baby monitor with me, and I literally went outside and sat on their swing with bare feet in the middle of February and my blanket and my tea, and I just sat there and enjoyed sunshine. And it took a little while, but by the time I came back inside, I felt like a human being again. And there's studies, there's stuff that you can look at, but genuinely, guys, getting your feet on the ground, your bare feet on the ground, it just changes your whole energy for the day. Um, and being outside in the sunshine. Yesterday, we didn't have sunshine, but we went outside anyway and took a walk and got rained on. And the kids thought it was hilarious because it wasn't a cold, nasty rain. And we're in springtime now. But they're like, Mom, this guy's spitting on me. I was like, that's kind of gross, but it does kind of feel like that because it's not very much rain. So, okay. But like it can just it can turn your day around if you can take a few minutes to get outside and get sunshine on your face and bare ground under your feet. Like it can make a big difference in your day. Um, I do something kind of similar to Amanda where I need some solo time. And I think you need to know yourself for this. Are you more of an introvert or are you more of an extrovert? Because if you're more of an introvert, it's going to change how you take your solo time, like how you
Mhm,
take your time away from the house. Because for me, I'm an introvert. I want to go hide in the corner of a coffee shop and nobody talk to me while I color or read my book or do some planning or whatever and drink my coffee or my tea, have my snack with me. That fuels me up to be
mhm.
alone and not have any kind of a schedule, not have anything to do. Like, that's my time. And I do the same thing where we schedule. Chris will come to me. He's like, I know how beneficial this is for you. And so we will try to look at our week and schedule when can I get that time? When can I get away on my own? Um, and that's what my solo date typically looks like is we've got a coffee shop, two coffee shops in the town next to us that I just love. And so those are where we go. Oh, I have sad news for you and sad news for me. The cookie,
Oh,
the cookie coconut is closed.
tell him to open.
I know. I want them to open back up. You froze. You froze like this.
No, that was just my face, Diane.
But you still froze like that.
Oh no.
You're stuck like that. Oh no, you're gone. There you are. I see you again. But yeah, our local little coffee and smoothie place is closed. And it makes me
I'm
very sad.
distraught.
So I have to go much further to get my coffee dates now. I used to go there to get my coffee dates, but they're closed. So alone time. Another one that I, to me, it's not exercise, but it's definitely self care is yoga. Restorative yoga for me is hugely beneficial for my mental health and for if you're someone who deals with anxiety, um, or, like racing thoughts or things like that, and you have a hard time settling down, I highly recommend trying some restorative yoga. Um, it just reminds your nervous system that you're safe. It gets you to slow down your brain and your body, and it's just been really beneficial for me. I don't I don't believe in necessarily the principles of yoga or the theology of yoga, but like there's no denying the physical and emotional benefits of slowing your body down and giving yourself time to relax into those poses and things like that.
That's why I think just calls it gentle stretching
Mm-hmm.
because it's absolutely the same thing.
Yeah.
But we meditate on scripture.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes. I'm excited to do those classes at some point. Um,
yes.
and then honestly, guys, something really simple: hot drink in a pretty mug. I love
Mhm.
it. It fills me up. It makes me feel special. It makes me feel like, oh, I got a treat, even though it's just weak leaf soup, as Sheldon calls it.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like weak leaf soup, but it feels good to me and it makes me happy. So that is self care. So those are my most common self care things that I do.
I prefer tumblers.
Mm-hmm.
I have all of them. I have all the tumblers. Love them.
Mm-hmm. I'm a sucker for mugs.
Um, so something that just isn't talked about enough is toxic self-care. And
Yeah.
these are the things that people will excuse
Mm-hmm.
under the veil of self-care, when in reality, it's doing damage to themselves or their relationships, people around
Mm-hmm.
them. This could be things like using substances,
Yes.
spending more money than you can or should,
Mm-hmm.
or just neglecting your family.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't someone taking a girls' trip on occasion or a
Right.
date night with your husband. You could take a trip every weekend if you could afford it and your husband is on board with taking care of the kids. But if you are sneaking out, if
Mm-hmm.
you are lying to your family about where you are, where you're going, what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
or if you aren't making sure your children are properly cared for,
Mm-hmm.
this could be toxic self-care. Don't allow yourself to do it and don't allow anyone else to do it to
Oh,
you.
like don't let other people do it to you, and don't justify it
Mhm.
societally too. Like it's okay to call some things out, because I think so many things in our society get perpetuated because nobody calls them what they are.
Yes.
And yeah, it's okay to call things what they are.
Mhm. So what about you, Diana? Do you have any examples of toxic self-care?
Um, I think that we've created, or I see what's been created as this mommy wine culture.
Mhm.
I think that's toxic self care, because if you think that you need a bottle of wine in the evening to survive bedtime routine, you need to do some evaluations.
Mhm.
If you need a bottle of wine at night or a box of wine to cope with the stress of the day, you need to do some evaluations in your life. And I'm not saying this in a mean way, like, but out of love. That's not healthy. That's not okay. Like, what are you communicating to your family when, oh, mommy has to have wine to deal with you?
Mhm.
Um, that's that's escapism. Why do you need to escape? Why are you trying to escape your own life? Like, this is the life you created, and a lot of times I almost guarantee you guys, this may be the life you prayed for.
Mhm.
So there's got to be better coping mechanisms for you than drinking your evenings away or your whole day. Like, there's some moms that like, yep, I'm drinking all day long. And that's not okay, guys. So that's when Amanda mentioned substances, that's one of the ones that comes to mind is
Mhm.
the quote unquote mommy wine culture. And I am not opposed to having a nice glass of wine with dinner. I'm not opposed to having a glass of wine in the evening when you're making dinner. It's just something you enjoy. But if you need it to
Yeah,
survive, I think you need to be evaluating that. Why is that? And
yeah.
what needs to change so that you can enjoy your life without having to have that.
That's what,
Um,
Rachel Hollis talked about in Girl Wash Your Face when she was talking about her struggle with alcoholism.
yeah,
She didn't consider it a problem until she started looking at her language.
yeah.
And one night she looked over at her husband, Dave, and said, "Oh my gosh, mommy needs the whole bottle tonight." And she realized, like, this would be, like, her 3rd bottle, I think, of
Hmm.
the week. And she's like, "Okay, no, if I'm saying I need it, I need
Right,
to breathe. I need to move.
right.
I do not need alcohol. If I
I
need it, it's a
need to
problem."
eat. I need to drink water. I don't need alcohol. Yeah. Um, so yeah, that's one that I think has become really common and pervasive, especially like what are we telling people about motherhood?
Mhm.
What are we telling our kids about motherhood, about them? That I need a whole bottle of wine to deal with this. Um, Another one that came to mind is caffeine dependency.
Mhm.
Um, like if you need a whole pot of coffee to get through your day, we need to talk about some better habits. Like if you need a whole pot of like if you need 5 cups of coffee and you cannot make it through your day without those 5 cups of coffee, I think we need to talk about your schedule a little bit and about remember that sleep thing we talked about. I think we need to prioritize that. Or maybe you need to go to the doctor. Maybe you've got a thyroid problem because that's a really common thing for moms and in women in general. Well, you're going to say something.
Shane, I know you're listening. This could also be Diet Mountain Dew.
Shane
Just
Smith,
saying.
I'm not
He is
saying it could be,
listening
it
on the
is.
other
This is
side of this
Diet
door.
Mountain Dew.
He is listening on the other side of this door right now. I know that he is.
Mhm.
And he's going to listen to this podcast. 1, 2, fine.
Well,
It's fine.
yeah,
It's fine.
I
But
enjoy, like, if you just enjoy coffee and you want to have a cup in the morning or sometime, like, that's great. Enjoy your coffee. But if you have to have coffee again at 10 and again at noon and again at 3 and again at 5 because you just cannot get through your day, something needs to change. That's not healthy. That's a sign of a problem. You need more sleep and you need more exercise. Maybe you need better nutrition. Maybe your body is, when it's tired, is craving more nutrition. Maybe your body is saying, I have vitamin deficiencies. Like start exploring some stuff. But that's also not a healthy thing, in my opinion, that people call self care. Like, oh, I just need my coffee, or I just need my Red Bull, or I just need whatever all day long. Um, and then finally, the other one is doom scrolling. You just escaping into your phone and sitting there and continually scrolling and losing yourself in it. Um, I'm not opposed at all to like some intentional, I want to go check out Facebook, some intentional, I want to go play on Instagram, or I need to check the news. But when you get so lost in it, that you forgot what time it was, you miss an appointment, or it's starting to affect your mental health. Like if you realize after I do this, I feel really gross. I feel really worried. I feel really stressed out. I feel really angry. I think you need to reevaluate your choice of screen time, like what you're using for it, because that can become another form of escapism, like trying to get out of my world. And it's really easy and it's really tempting. And I'm not going to say I haven't done it. I have full on gone and hidden in my bathroom and scrolled for 10 or 15 minutes just to get some decompression time. Is that the healthiest thing I could have chosen to do? No. But I also don't do it all the time. You know what I mean? Um, Listen to your audiobook. Go get barefoot in the ground. I'm talking to myself here too, guys. Like, go get barefoot outside. Listen to my audiobook. Stretch. Do some stretching. Do some deep breathing. Like, we all need a minute. We all need a chance to reset. But there's healthier things that you can do than doom scrolling.
Mm-hmm. A friend of mine who works like for the Republican Party of Kentucky was telling me the other day that there's some legislation. I think it's in a different state. I don't think it's in Kentucky. Um, but they are looking into the addictive nature of swiping
Mm-hmm.
and trying to outlaw the swiping motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be TikTok, Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels.
Yeah, Instagram has reels.
Yeah. Like that whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
because they're finding it's the swiping nature that is actually addictive.
Well, there's
And
multiple aspects of it, but there is something about that motion that is
mhm.
definitely a part of it.
And it's the being able to you flick your thumb and there's a whole new story. You flick it again, there's a whole new story. And so, I mean,
It's that dopamine hit.
yeah, I don't want them to outlaw those because I love them. I adore them. I have a list laying beside of me of about 15 TikToks that I want to record today. So, like, I don't want them to get rid of that, but um,
So when I was at the convention this weekend, there was a company there, and they're called, I think it's Wise Tech. And there's a couple of good companies out there that are talking about, how do we safely introduce our kids to cell phones? Because when I was first introduced to cell phones, all you could do was call and text. That was it. Um, and you didn't have to deal with social media. You didn't have to deal with what are they going to stumble across on the internet, or who's going to be messaging them inappropriate things. Um, and the Wise Tech phone, you can't do that scrolling motion on it for
mhm,
any of the things. Like, even just in your phone, like in an iPhone, you can do that flipping motion just to get between apps or to move things around. And the this Wise Tech phone doesn't have any of that. You have to like tap on stuff and X out of it and move it around without doing the swiping. And the friend who was with me, she goes, I didn't realize how much I like scrolling until I couldn't do it. Like
mhm.
doing that flipping motion. Um, so it's it's wild. Like,
Yes.
the stuff that we connect and want to do all the time is wild.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, those are the things. The mommy wine
Okay.
culture, caffeine addiction, and doom scrolling. Like, those often get labeled as self care, and I
Mhm.
think they're toxic.
Yeah. Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. And remember that just like on airplanes, you can't take care or you can't care for anyone else
Hmm.
until you properly care for yourself first.
Hmm.
And it's not a horrible idea. It was something I talked about when I did mental health classes with mental health first aid. Keep a list of things that you can
Yes.
refer to when you need to.
Yes.
Things that you can practice occasionally, just as like a this is just what I do to take care of me, just to do it. And also a list of things if you are in a crisis, if
Hmm.
something horrible is going down,
Hmm.
what can you refer back to that you're already practiced in that you can just kind of mindlessly go into?
Right.
That way,
Well,
like you have your list.
and I want to point out something, like, if you haven't practiced it before, you're not going to be able to do it in a crisis.
No.
So that's why the regular practice, like regularly doing yoga, do yoga 2 or 3 times a week, do a meditation 2 or 3 times a week, get outside and get your feet on the ground and slow yourself down, do a breathing practice 2 or 3 times a week, so that you're equipped when you get into that emergency situation and it's natural for you to do those things.
Yeah. I also schedule my self care. I will write it
Hmm.
on my calendar and use it as an appointment.
Mhm.
Um, for the last few months, my husband has known Monday at 8, mommy clocks out.
Mhm.
Do not ask her for anything. Do not
Mhm.
ask her where something is.
Mhm.
She is in her room.
Mhm.
The only questions I get asked on Monday nights is, do you need any snacks? Do you need a refill?
Yes. Those are the best questions. I think making a list is brilliant. I did something similar when I did a Whole30, and I was trying to train myself not to use food as my treats as a reward or a coping mechanism. And so I made a list of things I could do instead. And I haven't actually done that since then, and I need to do that. That's a good idea to do the list.
Mhm. So, you guys take care of yourselves.
Yes.
Be intentional about taking care of yourselves.
Yes.
Make your lists, put it on your calendar,
Mhm.
avoid the toxicity.
Mhm.
But yeah,
You
that's
guys
pretty
are
much what I
worth
have
it.
to do.
You guys are worth feeling like a whole person.
Yes.
You're worth doing the things that make you alive.
Hmm.
Like, you're worth it. We love you.
Yes.
We
Yes.
want you here.
Yes, absolutely.
Mhm. So, yeah. Thank you guys for being here. But, guys, I pray that you can see the beauty in your unvarnished lives this week and find time, like Amanda said, to take care of yourselves. And we're so happy you're here. We love y'all. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.